Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I'm going to make part 2 of this video. I made a part 1 of this video a while back, and I had said in it, I'm probably going to need to remake this video several times, and I'm going to have to remake it because people oftentimes come here these days and are like, what do you think of this program? Could you review this program? No, I'm not really interested, guys. And it's not that I'm sure that some of them are not good programs, it's that unless it's something very, very, very heavily and seriously used by a lot of athletes, I don't think that we need to address those programs. Okay, if it's something that another YouTuber has come up with, that hasn't been run by 20,000 people, I mean, at least my Ice Cream Fitness, I put it out so many years ago when I was one of the actually very few fitness channels. There weren't that many back then. And it got so much traction that, yes, tens of thousands of people have probably run it. Okay? But if it's just some smaller program, we don't care. We should really only care about training programming that has been tried and tested in the trenches with athletes in multiple sports. Okay? That we can see the different results. It's why we tend to talk about stuff like Conjugate, 5-3-1. We could even talk about starting strength in that regard, right? We could talk about that. We could talk about various linear block periodization protocols. But in other words, there's no point in us delving into hypothetical things that do not have enormous amounts of real-world testing. They're a complete waste of your time. Why? Because we have different programming that we know works based upon reasonably sound science, hopefully updated with science, and it's been tried and true in dozens of sports by elite athletes who are trying to get incredibly strong and or incredibly jacked oftentimes. So why Conjugate? Why do I promote Conjugates? This is what I promote. This is what I use. This is what the vast majority of my clients use. By the vast majority, I mean approximately 3/4. And in a perfect world, I'd put all of my clients on it. It's not always feasible in their specific situation. And you know what? It may not be feasible in your specific situation. And that can oftentimes be the condition of your body. Certain injuries we're working around, certain movement patterns you have to fix. Because if you can't box squat, you can't run Conjugate. If you haven't learned how to box squat yet, or perform a good morning, you have some movement patterns that you need to work on. Maybe you have some injuries and range of motion problems you have to work on before we can go to a system like this. In that case, that's exactly who I don't put on these systems. People who have other things we have to work on. But this is the system I use. It's a system I discuss, and I'll occasionally talk about other stuff, and a lot of things I discuss will be generally useful for you if you're running other templates and other systems. The general training information. But a lot of my stuff is specific to Conjugate. And I'm not arbitrary in my picking of it. I went with it because it works, it's sound. I had experience with it in the past. Delved back in at certain points in the last couple of years and really soaked up every last drop of material I could find on it. Retouched upon all the stuff that I'd already previously known about it. Talked to other coaches who actually did train at Westside. I know some. And some of them aren't even a mystery. Anyone who pays attention, like to the community who talks with me back and forth, would know who some of them are. It shouldn't be that hard to figure it out. They're not exactly shy about the fact that they get along with me and like me. So I compare notes with those guys because, I mean, what a great source of information. Guys who actually trained at Westside for years under Louis. I mean, that's a great source of information. So why do I do this system? It's proven. It's adaptable. It makes us better athletes, not just power lifters. It has been adapted to multiple and numerous elite level sports. Now, before people jump up and say, well, most athletes are on drugs. No, not most. If you think only most elite athletes are on drugs, you're a dumbass. I'm just going to call it like it is. You think there are exceptions? There might be. Are you likely to find one? No. All elite athletes are on drugs. But using that logic, you could never use any system that has been successfully used by elite athletes. But here's the thing that I would ask you. If something works for elite athletes, I'm not talking about bodybuilding because we know bodybuilding is all about drugs. We know that. It's not talking about bodybuilding. But if something is successfully working for very large numbers of athletes in elite sports, and plenty of natty guys run these same systems and get phenomenal results on top of it, I think it's fair to say that it works for everyone. Okay, it's fair to say that it works for everyone, and it's designed to work for everyone. And when you look at it, this is a case of a training system in which the person who created the idea, the whole concept of it, Louis Simmons, spent decades coaching tons and tons of elite powerlifters in person, experimenting with the system. He spends all his time, even to this day, reading through scientific texts, looking through the literature, trying to adjust all of his training based upon all the research and information that he can find, and experiment with all of it in a cohesive system with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of athletes to experiment on and test on over the decades. And what does he say? If something else worked better, we would do that. And he means that literally. He tests different stuff, and if he changes a variable or changes a method and a bunch of his people get good results on it, they implement it more and weave it into the system. So he literally does mean that if you come up with something that works better, it will become part of our training system. We will use it if it works better than what we're doing. And they've already done the testing, and the odds are that most of you are going to find something that's been more tested is pretty slim. And that's the whole point with it. That's the whole point with it. It's a tried and true system. Now, it always needs to be fine-tuned for the individual person. But the basic system and the ideas around it are sound. They're very scientifically sound. They are time-proven in a dozen different sports. Large numbers of professional athletes and world record holders in strength sports have used this system. It works. It works. And it has decades of refinement going into it. And it continues to be refined. It's been updated and refined even since I've been running it here on YouTube. And I try to keep up with that. And I may not always have that all perfect. And we're all going to have our own spin on our supplemental lifts and things like that. But most of the base programming and the concepts behind it, I try to generally stick to it. Because even if you don't get it perfect, if you're pretty close, you're probably going to get pretty good results. And I've gotten pretty damn strong for a dude in my 40s who spent a year in bed sick and had to rebuild from nothing in his 30s. Done pretty decent. Done pretty decent. And my clients do really well. And that's what matters. It's a proven system. And that's the whole point. It's a proven system that adapts and tests the new stuff that's out there. It's an ever-evolving but proven system. So that's kind of the point. People who are looking for, well, I need something that can be adapted to whatever I'm doing. Well, it will adapt to whatever you need it to. The system is structured in such a way to do that. It's time-proven, scientifically based, tested repeatedly, continually in the trenches with large numbers of real athletes. And it works. And it works extremely well. And it doesn't matter that you say, well, in this sport or this branch of the sport, hardly anyone runs it. Well, so what? Maybe they have biases against running it in some cases. And it's not that they wouldn't get the same results running it. Or they don't care about being multifaceted, and so they're willing to ignore that for equal performance without having to waste time getting in better shape or being more athletic or whatever it is that they're pursuing, such as some branches of the powerlifting world. But that's not a knock at the system. It works, and it works very well. And it's what I promote, it's what I use, it's what I coach, it's what I generally promote on this channel, and it's what we discuss, and it's what I advise most of you to work towards utilizing. And I'm not saying you can't use some other system. I'm not saying I'm going to make fun of you for it or that you're wrong. I won't do that. But it doesn't mean I don't think you should use this instead. Okay? And I'm fine with other people even experimenting. You know, you want to go run 5-3-1 or some linear periodization or whatever, that's fine. Some of my channel may not be as good of a resource for you, but a lot of it still will be, and that's okay. You do what you need to do. But don't knock this system until you have legitimately run it and compared. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.